following announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome back to Celtic World Order for the second time today, as obviously earlier on we uploaded our opposition and focus video looking at Club Brugge, and that's who I'm here to talk about in a wee bit more detail, get a wee bit of feedback from, as ever, the beautiful, the handsome, the youthful Josh joins me on screen. Mate, it's been a wee while since you've been on. How's things been treating you, and have you enjoyed the football returning and a good result against Hearts?
Yeah, very much so. Been doing well, Stevo. Thank you very much. Good result at the weekend. I think Celtic kind of first half they eased their way into it. I think it was quite typical after the international break, that style of performance. But once they got into their groove, second half, I think the 2 goals in quick succession really killed the game within the hour. And then Celtic went on from there. Ida comes on, makes a good impact off the bench. So, no, it was really good to see Celtic back. Obviously, the international break was a long one, and it's the last one until March. So I think we're all grateful for that. But no, good to see Celtic back in action, back to winning ways ahead of this ultra marathon, as the manager describes it, and that's exactly what it is. And that was only the first game. I think between now and New Year, there's 9 matches alone, which is like you say, a lot of games. So the squad's going to have to be managed well, and the players are going to have to perform. And it is tough games because you've obviously got Bruges tomorrow. Ross County's all right, but then it's Aberdeen at Pittodrie next midweek. Good. Then it's Hibs at Celtic Park. Then it's Zagreb away. Then it's Cup final. Some massive games that are coming, but it is a really exciting time to be supporting Celtic at the minute.
It doesn't let up, as you say, and it's a really full stack calendar. It always is around November, December, and the turn of the year, and there's no exception here. There's no let up, and we need to keep on top of it. We'll cover that. We'll have a wee look back at the game. I've not had your thoughts and opinions on that one. Of course, we'll look further towards Bruges tomorrow night and what they pose. Before we do that, just a wee quick whip round the housekeeping. Welcome to everyone for joining us. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for the continued support. We really do appreciate it. If you're new, a warm welcome. If you like what you've seen here, give us a wee thumbs up, a wee share. Most importantly, you hit that notification bell icon, you hit the subscribe and support the channel. You can get us in multi-platforms elsewhere. X is CWO Pod 1888. We're on TikTok. We're on that new thing called Blue Sky, still trying to get to grips with that. And of course, you can catch up on the move on Spotify. If you want to help out the channel, you can by way of donation, become a member, like the bold 420 somewhere, the OG there. There's no additional content. It's essentially a donation to help run this channel, because putting it together does cost a wee bit of money. So that's it. Straight in the bin with that. Let's get down to business. So, Josh, this says, you touched on it. A good weekend for Celtic. You know, obviously, we were very fortunate that our closest rivals, and let's call them that because that's what they are, Aberdeen, dropped points. Quite a surprise there, but a wee bit of a Brucey bonus for us. And of course, our supposed, alleged closest rivals, Rangers, struggled to get the job done at Ibrox. So it was very good to get a bit of clear light between us and Aberdeen. 3 points. Of course, they play tonight against Hibs. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. However, if I was going to gamble, I think I know how that one's going to pan out. And then, as it says, we'll be facing them further down the line. But it was Hearts at the weekend, mate. And I thought, much like yourself said there, bit of sticky first half. Perhaps maybe a bit indicative of what you get out the back of an international break. But in the end, we found a form. Was it actually a bit easier than we maybe perceived?
Yeah, I was expecting a bit more from Hearts, if I'm honest. I know they're down the bottom of the table, but you're always expecting something tough from Hearts at Tynecastle. Maybe the atmosphere wasn't quite as feisty as what I expected it would be, as what it's been on previous visits. But at the same time, I think Tynecastle trips for Celtic go one of 2 ways. I think they either go to a very comfortable victory like it was on Saturday night, or they go in the way of being a difficult match with lots of contentious decisions that's decided by 1 or 2 goals. And that's what it was in March when Celtic went there. But no, Saturday was very comfortable, particularly in the second half. I think in the first 45, Hearts' press really prevented Celtic from getting out, and that's why you didn't see them get up the pitch and create a lot of opportunities. So I think Hearts were pretty spot on with that early doors, and that kind of continued throughout the first half. And they had opportunities. Blair Spittle has the chance. Alan Forrest had a shot blocked. So Shankland had one. So they had some chances, but they don't take them. And that's been kind of the story for Hearts the past couple of games. At Ibrox, they didn't take their chances. Against Heidenheim at Tynecastle, they didn't take their chances. But yeah, Celtic, if you give them opportunities, Celtic will be clinical.
Yeah.
I think the Kyogo one was one of the first 2 or 3 opportunities Celtic had in the game.
It was sparse, it was.
Yeah, and he scores the goal, and then because you get the goal 5 minutes straight after that through Kuhn on the break, you have to say it's a devastating counter-attack, a really, really good finish from Nicholas Kuhn. He's incredible at the minute. But yes, they go forward and they get that goal, and by 60 minutes, 2-0 up, Hearts have really got no way back into the game. And when Celtic can bring that quality off the bench, Paulo Bernardo comes on, makes a really good impact. Ida comes on, obviously scores the 2 goals. Forrest wins a penalty. So that's 3 substitutes contributing to your goals. And having that depth in there is so huge, and it helps you win these games comfortably compared to perhaps last season, when instead of Adam Ida, you're bringing on someone like instead of, well, Paulo Bernardo's a year more down the line in his development now. So the progression from last year is clear to see as well. And yeah, a comfortable victory in the end. Wasn't so comfortable at half-time. And I think we were all sitting at half-time of that game thinking, right, when are Celtic going to click into gear? Because you knew you had that in them. And when they eventually did, it was plain sailing for the rest of the game. And I think no one in Scottish football at the minute can handle Celtic when they're in first gear.
Definitely.
And when they're at top gear, no one can cope with them. But like you say as well, the results elsewhere going Celtic's way was very pleasing to see. Obviously, Rangers dropping points home at Dundee United. Somewhat, it's not as much of a surprise as you think it would be nowadays. It's not. And then the Aberdeen loss was a wee bit surprising to me, but their record in Paisley against St Mirren away is not great, I believe. So a bit of a drop off for them. Very interested to see how they bounce back tonight. If they lose tonight or drop points tonight, I think that's the Aberdeen
bubble burst, truly.
Yeah, the bubble burst well and truly indeed. But if they go to Easter Road and win tonight, then that's them back. They've bounced back. But I think Aberdeen are 2-1 to win tonight, which actually quite
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is really incredible.
I don't know what that tells you. I think because it's Easter Road, etc. But Hibs are poor at the minute as well, so we'll be interested to see that one. Keep a keen eye on that. But the full focus is really on Celtic, and at the minute, no one in Scottish football is getting close.
No, and as you say, they're playing tonight. That's a sideshow. It is what it is. What will happen with that game will be. We just take care of ourselves. We get bigger fish to fry. We get the Champions League. We've got another 3 points to try and get in the bag. Take us on to that magical 10, which according to Supercomputer, pretty much gives you safe passage through. Of course, we're nice. We're on an even keel with a goal difference situation, and 7 points after 4 games, fantastic. I think 10 would push us over, and then if we look a wee bit further down the line, which we can do, the game, particularly Young Boys are Bern at home, that's got to be the one that you're saying, right, that's a nailer. And then obviously Zagreb, they've been a wee bit of a surprise package, and Villa, hopefully they will take care of themselves, but we're in a really, really strong position. We'll just go back to, as we say, what happened there at the weekend. I think when you look at it, we did manage to get there. He says at half-time, you're thinking, when are we going to turn up? What's going to happen? I don't know about yourself, but certainly for me, there's a real element of calm around it. Obviously, as fans, our expectations high. We're sitting there, I'm sure your chats were buzzing as well. This is useless, what we're doing. You can be frustrated, but there was never, ever a point where I thought, we're going to lose this, we're going to drop points. There was an inevitable feeling that we would click in. Obviously, it took to the second half and whatever was said there, but as you rightly say, Hearts had plenty of purchase, plenty of good opportunities, but similar to Ibrox, they blew their load. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't put one in. Had they managed to get a goal, it might change it, because it was a typically great performance from them at home under the lights on a late Saturday game, which was a nice refreshing thing to see as well. But ultimately, our quality came through, and I think a lot of players really stepped up their game. Hatate goes on to get the man of the match. I thought in the first half, I says, flip a coin. Who's it going to be, Engels or Hatate to come off? But everybody just seemed to come to light. There's a lot of positives to take for that performance, a wee bit of resilience to show that, we can just turn it up, and we went through the gears. And even when we got ourselves ahead, I did feel that we really could have put the foot down and pushed on further and further and been a wee bit more convincing, believe it or not, than we were. But for you in that performance, was there any concerns or any particular standouts for you? I think the big question seemed to be around Taylor and Engels as we look towards tomorrow.
Yeah, I think in terms of performance, there was not really any concerns in the first half. I think at half-time, I think maybe a year ago, with the progression we've seen from Celtic a year ago, you'd be thinking, you'd be sitting at half-time biting your nails. But at half-time in that game at the weekend, there was no real concern. It was just a sense or a case of, right, just waiting on it happening. Where's my watch? When are Celtic going to click in it? And they eventually do. In terms of player performances individually, thought Tati, like you say, had a really good game. Carter Vickers, I thought, was outstanding. Him and Trusty, that partnership just keeps getting stronger and stronger by the game, which is great to see. Taylor thought had an off night, particularly in the first half, gave the ball away too many times for my liking. I think there's a question to be had there regarding who starts at left back tomorrow night. I think we'll have that conversation later on. And then midfield, Arne Engels, like you say, I don't know. Engels is an interesting one because a lot of people, he seems to be dividing folk at the minute. Whoever you speak to in the Celtic supporting, I feel like he's been inconsistent in terms of some of his performances going from Europe and then going into the league. So Tynecastle at the weekend, don't think he was great. No. Rugby Park before the international break, don't think he was great. But if you look at his numbers, him in the Champions League, he's made 4 appearances, started all 4 games, and he's got 1 goal and 3 assists, and he averages a goal or an assist every 80 minutes in the Champions League this season. And when you consider Celtic have played Leipzig, Atalanta and Dortmund in 3 of those 4 games, it's quite an incredible record. So he's proved that he can do it at that level. It's just about, for Engels, transferring that form into the league and into the regular domestic games. But I'm sure that will come. He's only 21 years of age, just turned 21 in the summer. So you can't expect him to be putting in those performances every week. Whether I would start Bernardo tomorrow is another question. I thought he came into the game, had a really good impact, and it was just great to see. And then going forward, guys like Kuhn, I think Nicholas Cooney had a quiet game, even for the whole match. But he still comes up with that moment of magic, that moment of quality, and that's what a player like that can do. Devastating finish into that top left corner, and then Kyogo scoring. It was really good to see. I think he's kind of needed goals lately. He had that run, that very long run, where away from home, he didn't score away from home in the league, and then he's kind of got his goals recently. St Johnstone away, then and scores at the weekend, which is good. But then he comes on and stakes his claim by scoring too.
It's good to see both strikers getting. But they needed that.
Yeah, and I think there's been some question marks over Ida as well, and similar to Engels, that brought in for a high price tag, perhaps not really performing. But when you look at Ida's goals per minute ratio, I've not got the stats by hand here, but I think it's really, really good.
Well, do you know, I actually had this chat when I done the post match, and it was pointed out, and I totally agree that there's no doubt in my mind that Kyogo is an all-round player at this moment. He's far more polished. He offers a lot more. And in terms of those intelligent runs, it maybe plays into the sort of way that our wingers, particularly Nicholas Kuhn, to pick out those passes, McGregor, is maybe better suited when he's making those runs and can be found. However, as you say, if you look at, forget the amount of goals he's got versus appearance, you know, that's one statistic. But if you were to say, and I'm just plucking a number out of thin air, he's had 15 opportunities to put the ball in the net and he's taken X.
Yeah.
We all know that Kyogo is a great goal scorer, but more often he does take multiple chances. So probably chances to goals ratio, he actually is better despite his limited minutes. But look, it's healthy to see both strikers on it. And one thing that I did like, I'm not sure if you picked up on yourself, there was a real business-like sort of way that we approached. Whenever those goals went in, Kyogo, who's normally the happy-go-lucky, you know, wavy hands and running away, there was a grit of determination. It was fist pumping, it was yelling, it was shouting. I think he needed it. It felt as if there was a wee bit of relief getting taken off his shoulders. And then somewhere again, you know, the celebrations are next to limited. There was a real swagger, there was a real determination from all the players' faces when the ball hit the net. And I like that. I like to see that wee bit of grit.
Yeah, especially with the Ida celebration as well. I think it was good to see him go over at that, Hearts fans, giving him the wee finger. I just worked out there. So Ida's goals per minute ratio in all competitions this season, he's averaging a goal every 77 minutes, which is quite incredible. For a substitute striker, a backup striker, he always seems to make an impact. So yeah, like you say, there is that bit of grit, determination within the team in a minute. I think that's something the manager installs. And then we've seen it towards the end of last season when Celtic were fighting for that title. I think the manager installed somewhat of a siege mentality within that team, and they kind of buckled down and went on to win the league. And obviously, like you say, at the weekend, that's something I've noticed as well this season, is when the players celebrate, usually you see everyone running on and piling up. This season it's been quite sparse. Like some will just run straight back into the halfway line and get back in position. Even in the big games like Leipzig at home, I think when Cooney even scored the second goal, not everyone was going over to him.
He's kind of devoid of emotion sometimes as well, and he's I call him the Iceman because he just turns around. It's almost like, right, and what? There we go, enjoy it.
He's ice cold, Nicholas Kuhn. So Yeah, there's a bit of that in the team as well. But let's say he does goals per minute ratio is incredible. When you look at that, it's probably a better goals per minute ratio than Kyogo, actually, if not what Kyogo's out. But at the same time, when you look at the two, I think he does second touch usually as a tackle. I think he needs to really work on that hold-up play side of his game for me in his first touch. And Kyogo is much more of an well-rounded player. If Kyogo didn't do the link-up play that he did, you'd be complaining at his goals ratio. But he's so good on the ball. He can link the play so well and pressing as well. He's a machine for that. And in Europe, he'll be massive. I think it will be Kyogo who starts tomorrow against Brugge. So
yes, I predicted that as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be him, and there are other debates in the team. But yeah, he does goals per ratio is good, and it was good for him to come off and get those goals, because he's somewhat. You can understand why he'd be a bit of a frustrated figure, being limited to substitute appearances, and then getting 2 goals in the space of what was about 10-15 minutes was really good for him.
He scored after 3 minutes, with the first one, maybe not the tidiest of finishes, but it's all about being in the right position at the right time and making it count. And yeah, definitely, as I say, we come on there, we've been scoring a plethora of goals, really, really heavy, dependent on the 2 wingers and Cal McGregor, Louise Fair chip in as well. Obviously, some goals sprinkled elsewhere on that pitch, but it's mainly been that sort of central midfield 3 that have been contributing largely. It's a bit unusual to look at top goal scoring charts and not see the main or one of both Celtic strikers in the mix, but it is what it is. So it was really vital for them to get a goal, and particularly when we go into this game against Brugge, it's a wee bit of confidence, a bit of wind in your sails, and hopefully they can kick on and get some goals under the belt in that game as well. Though I do think it's going to be a harder proposition than some people seem to think. In terms of looking at the team, obviously, he says there might be a couple of question marks over it. Let's start at the first one that I think is probably on most folks' minds is going to be in the left side of the pitch. Who's going to be playing in at left back? I don't know about yourself, but when I was talking about the sides, I feel with Greg Taylor, he has had a good start to the season. Since he's come back, he's been a wee bit lukewarm for me, a bit up and down, and understandably, some fans are jumping on it. Unfortunately for him, he's always been a bit of a whipping boy, but they're coming a wee bit out in force again. I do agree that his performances haven't been particularly vintage, and against Leipzig, I felt he was found wanting a wee bit. Do you think that with the way that he plays, he's still very much doing that inverted full-back role? We're not seeing that down the right-hand side with Johnson. It's a wee bit more traditional. It's just overlaps, very linear. Do you feel there's maybe a bit of an imbalance in the team when he plays?
Nah, not particularly. I think the manager spoke about having one doing the inverted and one doing the overlapping. He spoke about that in one of his press conferences lately, but that is the tactic and that's what he wants to do. I get where people think maybe it is a bit imbalanced because you've got one guy continually bombing up the right-hand side, but I think you don't really, but particularly with Daisen Maeda, you don't really need anyone overlapping him at times. For me tomorrow, I would probably go with Valle. If I'm honest, that would be my pick. I think it's a 50-50 split decision. I wouldn't be surprised to see either of them start. For me, it would be Valle because, well, we look at the Leipzig game. Rodgers said that he started Taylor because Leipzig play that kind of diamond and they need him in the middle of the park more. Bruges don't really play that. They play with wide wingers. And for me, I feel like Valle is a better one-on-one defender than Taylor. So I would have Valle playing at left back tomorrow, and he offers more of a threat going forward than Taylor. He's more of a traditional fullback, like you say, but he can play on the ball as well, and he's been good at that. So yeah, Valle, they're 2 really good options. That's the good thing. I think Taylor, although I think the first half against Leipzig he wasn't great, played it backwards a lot, but I think he grew into the game after that.
Improve a wee bit, yeah.
So I think he's proved he can do it at that level. Just he perhaps can be the weak point of the team at times, but I would go with Valle. That would be my pick if it was a 50-50 decision.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and everybody's sort of, some comments are coming in, keep them coming in, let us know what your thoughts on the lineup, how you think it's going to pan out, and we'll try and get as many of them up. There is calls for Valle. Has there been any sort of reason as to why he's maybe not featured quite so much as we has? The managers always says about cover rotation, and if you're not playing that game, you might play the next one. Do you think it's been a case of just trying to get Greg Taylor back up to speed, giving him more game time? Or is there some other underlying reason that we maybe don't know about with Valle? Because I think most folk would want to see him.
Yeah, I don't think it's just an underlying reason. I think when you look at the last couple of games, Hearts obviously at Tynecastle, big game. I think Taylor is probably the first choice, so he starts. And then you look before that, the game before that was Rugby Park. on the Astro. Taylor's familiar with that surface. Vi's probably not played on it much, particularly in Scottish football. So I think that was the wise choice to go with Taylor. At Kilmarnock, in the game before that was Leipzig. And Rodgers clearly stated he wanted Taylor in because he plays that inverted role well to disrupt the Leipzig diamond midfield. Then the game before that was the semi-final, and Vi played that game, started that game. So I think there's a case for both of them. Obviously, Taylor started the last 3 games. That'll be now, but I think could be the ideal opportunity to throw in Vi against Bruges tomorrow night. I think he could cope well. Obviously, Barcelona youth. We've seen what he can do, and he looks up to the mark so far. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't be against buying him, perhaps if the opportunity is there to do so, given his performances so far and the uncertainty over Taylor's contract. That's another debate. But yeah, we'll just have to see what happens tomorrow. I would go with Vi. That'd be my decision.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any underlying issues with Rodgers not playing Vi. I think it's just
one of those ones. But as I say, I think he's best suited, and it's interesting the way you touched on obviously the formations, as you say. And again, if you've not watched it after this, go and check out the opposition and focus video that we've done, profiling Bruges, how their form's been, and notably some of these players that myself and Josh will go on to talk about. So obviously my concern when I've done that video and the sort of case for Vi over Taylor was obviously, he's going to be down that sort of left-hand side, and he's going to be coming up against Skov Olsen. Very direct, very dynamic, and as you say, they play more traditional wings. So they've got Zolis on the left, they've got Olsen on the right. But as I pointed out, they've got very capable, they're great ball carriers, very forward-thinking, very attack-minded. They're not shy to get around the back, but they play on the opposite wing to their preferred foot. So they like to cut in, they like to get across the face of the goal. And I just feel that sometimes with that inverted role, it is at least a tendency to leave big gaps in behind. Now, obviously, we've got Trusty and Carter Vickers there, and they've got a great rapport, and we've seen Trusty mopping up quite well. I just feel that he's a guy that you can't really leave that amount of space because, yes, Leipzig are fantastic players, but you look at the output of Olsen so far, 5 goals, 3 assists, and look, last year, 26 goals and 8. You don't want to give that guy an inch on the pitch. I also think as well, recovery speed, Vi lends himself better to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the case for Vi tomorrow is the ideal one. And listen, because Taylor's played the last 3 games as well, Rodgers, he's not been shy at rotating the team this season. We've seen that, he's said that. So I think, like you say, the tactical stuff as well points towards Vi perhaps starting the game. Skov Olsen, incredible player, very physical as well, quite tall boy. So Vi will look to deal with that more, and I think, as I said, Vi is a better one-on-one defender than Taylor, and Taylor tends to leave gaps in behind, but it's good Celtic have this debate because last season in the Champions League it's just been Taylor, because you had Bernaby.
And it's good to have options.
Yeah, it's great to have options. Ideally, I would like a left-back who is similar to Alistair Johnston, but I think that's very difficult to find, so I think for me, Vi tomorrow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, then, I think the team largely, I'm sure you'll agree, pretty much picks itself. The only other one would be that question mark. And you pointed out, you said about Engels, and, his stats are very good in terms of this campaign so far, regardless of what people might perceive and see. As we know, sometimes stats can cover a multitude of sins. I do think that he's a fantastic player. We've been singing his praises, and I think he really just needs to bed in. I think he's a guy that we probably won't see the best of until next season. Of course, the big thing that people always drum on about is the price. Look, see, at the end of the day, the boy didn't ask to be made that price. That is what it is. Celtic saw the value and they took him. Do I think personally that we could have paid a wee bit less? Well, potentially if we were a wee bit more forward thinking, but that's neither here nor there. It's a fee that Celtic should be spending more regularly. I have no problems with it. I just think that people need to forget that and remember his age. He's developed, he's coming in a new squad, he's coming in a new way of playing, he's playing in a forward foot team versus a team that we're sort of usually digging in, a wee bit starved the ball possession in the Bundesliga. So he's got to change up his game, and I do think he will come good. Though for me, when we look at who we're going to be coming up against, of course, Hans Vakinen, he is their linchpin. He's their Cal McGregor, the franchise player, and we know the damage that he can do. For an attacking midfielder, 2 golden boots in Belgium, scoring an absolute barrel load, 6 and 7 in terms of goals to assists this season. He's going to be somebody we really need to pin down. And sometimes I feel that in these European games, there can be a real high dependency on McGregor to do everything. that's for me where I think Bernardo comes in. I think he just offers an extra wee layer of protection that Engels might not do. And whereas he can drift in games, I don't think Bernardo ever hides.
Yeah, I think the argument is certainly there for Bernardo to play tomorrow. I think the manager will go with Engels. And I think in terms of nailing down Van Aken, I think Engels could do the job. You look at Atalanta away, he played slightly more deeper alongside McGregor, and they played kind of 2-6s, and he kept Ademola Lookman quiet that whole game. Man marked him at the game. So he could do that with Van Aken tomorrow. But like you say, I think Engels, just for the sheer amount of football he's played recently, looking at starting for Belgium twice during the international break, started at Kilmarnock away before that, started Leipzig, then he started at the weekend. So maybe it could be time to sit Engels out, bring Bernardo into the team, because you know he can do it at this level. Rodgers trusted him, and I think he started
he favoured them in all the games last season.
And he's just such a... I describe Bernardo as a bulldog in midfield, and I think that kind of perfectly sums him up as a player. And what he does, he gets onto lost causes, he wins the ball back, he's physical, he can run all day for you, and I'm a big fan of him, and I think he's still got so much more room for development too. He's such an exciting prospect. So I would start him tomorrow, but I think Engels is equally worth a start, because he can play slightly more deeper as well, as he's proved. So it's a 50-50 toss of a coin for me. I think it's more of a 50-50 decision than the Valle-Taylor one, because I think there's more sense to start start Valle over Taylor. So we'll just have to wait and see. An intelligent bulldog, exactly. But he is a bulldog nonetheless. He's very good.
Well, it's funny. We always use these animal descriptions. I describe him as a wee mountain goat. Low centre of gravity, nimble. He bounces about. He manages to carry the ball and get you up the pitch. But a fantastic player. And we say, look, there's worse headaches to have than who do I pick between Engels at 11 million and Bernardo, who, under 21 Portugal captain on a fine, rich vein of form. So we're in a really strong position. This is the great thing. We do finally have a squad where you get into these games and you're having debates. Who's going to come in? And let's not forget as well, obviously Trusty and Carter Vickers, they have sort of cemented as being the preferred central two in defence, but we've still got Liam Scales as well, who, as we've seen, we can also utilise and put him out essentially at the left wing, the sort of left back position as well. There's multiple options there, but I think for me, if we look at our side, it's going to be all about that right-hand side again. Maeda will be out on the left and he'll be doing what he's doing. He'll be terrorising defences. Who's going to be alongside him to help him out? Well, it remains to be seen. But I think everybody will be looking at the form of Nicholas Kuhn and the team up with Alistair Johnson. I think that for us, that's really going to be who we're going to be turning to. And it's kind of strange, isn't it? Normally you'd be turning your attentions to which one of the strikers is going to be the guy who's putting the ball in the net. I think we're all looking at Nicholas Kuhn thinking, when's the goal coming? What's going to be happening there? This is another great opportunity for him to keep on going, keep building that reputation. Hopefully not so much when it comes to January. There's a queue of people wanting to buy him, but you think, he's got to be an absolute nail on. And, how does that look for us tomorrow? Is that going to be, your pick of the bunch to make it happen?
Yeah, I think he always is. Nowadays, Nicholas Kuhn, I think that's 11 goals and 11 assists this season in 18 games, which is quite an incredible return. He just always looks a constant threat. When he's on the ball, he's running at defenders, terrorising them. He's got that pace as well. He's so quick, which I think a lot of people don't notice at times. People say Maeda's rapid, but I think Kuhn is also very, very quick as well. Looking at left back, who plays for Brugge, it's a boy called De Kuyper. He's quite tall, physical. Played for Belgium a bit at the Euros, so it'll be interesting to see that battle between him and Kuhn. But Johnson will support him the whole game, making those overlapping runs, getting to the byline, underlapping runs. So yeah, Kuhn will be key. He always is, and like you say, it's another opportunity for him at the top level to really reinstate his reputation. Get the 2 goals against Leipzig. That's all well and good if you score 2 goals in a Champions League game as a one-off. Yeah. If you want to be a good player at elite level, to get call-ups for Germany, like he does want to do, he has that desire. You have to continually perform at Champions League level. So that'll be a key for Nicholas Kuhn tomorrow, is scoring another 2 goals perhaps against Brugge. I think that, listen, there's an argument to even say Brugge tomorrow could be a more difficult game than Leipzig.
Absolutely, I think a lot of people are forgetting that. There's a couple of things there coming in. Firstly, Steve's asking, are we going to the game? Josh, are you going to be there? Are you going to be in the flesh?
Yeah, I'll be there.
I am on standby for a ticket. May well be, as of course, if it comes my way, I'll take it. But No, regardless what, I'll be sitting there watching it. And Ian says, think he's going to subscribe to the channel. Well, make sure you do it, my friend. Hit that subscribe, but hit the icon. In terms of when we go live, we always try to get at least 2 episodes a week. We do a lot of pre-records as well, like the Opposition and Focus, and we upload them. So the best way for you to keep up to date with what's happening here is to subscribe and hit the bell icon. You get a wee ping notification. You'll never miss any. But thank you, Ian, for joining us, and hopefully we'll see more of you there. But coming back to it, I've started these off. People are saying it'll be a harder test than perhaps Leipzig. And this is the thing. No disrespect to them. When we look back, when the draw came out, we looked at those 4 home games and you thought, yep, anywhere 9, 10, 12 points maximum. And I think that people took for granted what Club Brugge have done. As I says, they won their home league last season, but they were also semi-finalists in the Conference League. Now, people might turn their nose up at the Conference League. I mentioned it in the reprofiling video. They eventually succumbed to a 4-3 defeat to Fiorentina. If we're being honest, arguably the best team they faced. They beat Molde, PAOK Salonika, and they had a group with Lugano, Bodo Glimt, and Besiktas. So it was pretty much plain sailing, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. And there's no shame in that.
As well, in the season before that, I think they even got to the last 16 of the Champions League. They got out their group, and they played Benfica. I think they got beat off Benfica in the last 16.
Was that not the season that a certain Jack Henry was playing for them?
I think it might have been, yeah. I think it was. So I think Bruges have qualified for 6 out of the last 7 Champions Leagues, if I'm correct. And the one season they didn't, like you say, they get to the semi-finals of the conference. So they have a very good pedigree at this level. They're Belgian champions for a reason. And they play good football. They play interesting football. Won 7-0 at the weekend as well.
Yeah.
So they're in fine.
Zola's 4 goals in that game.
Incredible. The boy looks good. He played for, I think he initially started out at PAOK, if I'm correct, and then he went to Norwich. Didn't work out for him at Norwich, and then makes a move to Club Brugge, where he's really flourishing now. Like you say, 4 goals at the weekend is incredible. So him on the left, they've got the boy Jutgla in the middle, Spanish striker, and then obviously Scott Wilson on the right, who's a really big threat for them.
Yeah.
So it's great. And then Van Aken in the middle of the park, big, tall midfielder, bit lanky, can score goals.
And as I say,
perhaps.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Not blessed with blistering speed, but the game intelligence, the way I described it as, like Tom Rogic, there's times where it looks like he's playing in slow motion. He just glides, he drifts, but he's got that intelligence, much like Cal McGregor. It's the vision. He's almost creates space when there is none, and that's what we've got to keep our wits about. And that's where I think that combination that we go for in the midfield is going to be absolutely vital. We need to nail that down. Do I think that they're going to do like Leipzig come and go as fast? Probably not. If I'm going to take a prediction, I think that they're going to be a wee bit more sensible. I think at the start of the draw, they probably would have looked at Celtic, as would have all the teams, and thought there's points to be had there. Unfortunately for them, our form is kicking on, and Celtic Park, it looks as if it could become something of a fortress once again. And as soon as that music hits, as soon as the roar goes up, they'll know what they're up against, and I think they might just dip their toe in with a wee bit of caution rather than go gung-ho, because we will open them up. But as we say, we've also got to be mindful there. Couple of absences. You feeling a bit positive for that? Obviously, they had Gustav Nielsen that they brought in from Union Saint-Gilloise, top scorer, 17 goals, 7 assists last season. Didn't quite get to hit the ground running. He was 4 goals, 3 before his injury, and he won't feature. Obviously, then that leaves the sort of door open for the alternative strikers. That a positive for you?
Yeah, if he's obviously had that goal record last season. I think Union Saint-Gilloise were right out in front in the Belgian league, and they kind of bottled it in the last couple of games of the season, and Bruges obviously went on to win the title, so done very well for them. It's good to see him injured. It would be like Bruges fans would be excited if Nicholas Kuhn was injured and Celtic lost the threat of him. Definitely. So it's really good. I think looking at Bruges though, in terms of how they're going to approach the game tomorrow, looking at their fixtures after Celtic, they have 3 to go. They've got Sporting, Portugal at home. They've got Juventus at home, then Man City away. So this could arguably be their last realistic chance.
Yeah, it's the roll of the dice, I think.
Yeah, so they've only got 6 points, so they probably do need to go all out for a win tomorrow. Although they will know that in the first 10-15 minutes of the game, Celtic are going to be right up and at them, and the crowd is going to be right behind Celtic. And if Celtic do get the early goal, then you feel perhaps that it could be a formality after that. But Bruges, they have to go out and get some points tomorrow, because the opportunity to get them after that doesn't look entirely great.
And that's the thing. I think they find themselves with 6 points after 4 games. That's a bit of surprising for them. You've just mentioned those games that they've got to play now. This is where this new format is fantastic. For teams like ourselves, it gives us a great opportunity, and we're seizing it and taking it. The luck of the draw is showing up on us. It never really does, but you look at what they've had to face. Obviously, they'd Villa, they probably wouldn't have fancied it. Of course, they managed to get that bizarre penalty, and that was enough to get them over the line. They obviously had Sturm Graz. That's the lower quality that you're talking about there that they faced. But then Dortmund, 3-0 at home, and of course, away AC Milan getting beat 3-1. So that's probably for them, out of their remaining fixtures, is the one that they're probably maybe pinning their hopes on.
Yeah, I think though as well, the Dortmund and Milan games are quite difficult for them. So they held Dortmund until the last 15 minutes. Dortmund scored 3 goals in the last 15 minutes. Then Milan away, they were playing very good until they got a man sent off away there and lost the game 3-1. So yeah, I think it is a bit of a last chance though. When you look at, even though it's their next 2 fixtures are at home, it is to some good sides in Sporting. We know how they smashed Man City a couple of weeks ago. And then they've obviously got Juventus, who are a really good side, then away to Man City, although they've lost 5 in a bounce.
Well, maybe they'll be looking at Man City. That's the team now.
Exactly. Because Celtic are on a better run than them at the minute. But I think tomorrow is a realistic opportunity for them to get points. They're probably the most realistic out of the last couple of games. But like you say, Celtic Park is becoming a bit of a fortress now. Again, looking at the last, I think it's 4 games now in the Champions League. Celtic have won 3 and drew 1. So you had the Atletico draw, Feyenoord win, Bratislava win, Leipzig win. And then who knows, it could go to 5 tomorrow. So it's slowly but surely getting back up there. Is a tough place to go in Europe. Celtic Park, listen, I'll probably say that. We'll get beat tomorrow now. But listen, I think Celtic are increasing their pedigree at European level year on year. And even just going back to last campaign as a whole, I think they're very unlucky at times in Europe. With the 2 sendings off away at Feyenoord, the last minute goal, an offside goal against Lazio at home, which is very unlucky. They lose both those games and they could have got a point each, at least, out of them. They had the red card sending off away at Atletico Madrid. So I think in Europe last season, Celtic were really unlucky. Although they finished bottom of the group with 4 points, they could have got several more than that. And this season, obviously, there's been vast improvements in terms of the squad, the team. They're playing very well. They're on good form. But you've had that wee bit of rub of the green as well. At times that perhaps didn't get in previous seasons. Obviously, for example, Leipzig at home, the Willie Orban header going just wide of the post at 1-0 down.
Yeah, I think it changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, if that goes in at 2-0, total different game, and you probably don't get anything out of it. Maybe you get a draw at a stretch. So you've had that wee bit of rub of the green, and now on 7 points, a win tomorrow, you're in the top 24, guaranteed, almost according to Opta stats. And then if you win tomorrow, then you can think about winning your next 2 and you're in the top 8. So it's a really good position Celtic are in at the minute.
And and to some that might sound a bit lofty and getting ahead of ourselves, but it's factual. If we can secure the 10 points, that should, as we say, I believe it's about 75%. The supercomputer said.
I think it's like 98.
Yeah, at least keeps you in that top 24, which is important. But as I say, when you look at we've got left, young boys are Bern, you're definitely looking at, no disrespect to them, but they've had a torrid time off it, and they're definitely a standard that we should be looking at and thinking that is going to be 3 points at home. Dinamo Zagreb, similar to ourselves, have maybe performed beyond what some have expected. So I think that's going to be a lot tougher a game again away from home than I suspected. That was one that I looked at and thought points, maybe not. So we'll see how their games pan out. And of course, Villa, they'll be looking to bounce back in their game tonight, but they're going to have potentially, again, they could be out of sight. So why not? We look at those games. If we can get the 3 points to this game, those 3 games there, I think if you try to get anywhere between 4 to 6 points, you're not far off a shout for being, depending on your goal difference, of course, being in that top 8. And that's the thing about this format, again, that I keep on singing its praises. When you look right down the table, there's nobody really ripping away. It's so close. There's everything to play for.
It's great. And do you know what's going to be very exciting? The last match day, every single game in the league phase kicks off at the same time when Celtic are down at Aston Villa. So you'll have, I think, what's that going to be, 18 games all going at the same time in tandem, and that is just, the table is going to rotate teams are going to be going up and down, goal difference, etc. So it's so exciting, and I'm a massive, massive fan of this new format. It's benefited Celtic. Had a wee bit of luck with the draw, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, 3 tough games. Leipzig, second team in the Bundesliga, Dortmund finalists last year, Atalanta Europa League winners. So, yeah, they've done so well for themselves so far, Celtic. It's really pleasing to see this kind of progression in Europe, because at least for me, it's something I've not been used to when watching Celtic over even the past 10 years. So it's been really, really nice to see. And we're just hoping if Celtic win tomorrow, then I think we can perhaps start to dream.
No, it's a really fresh approach, and it's good to see that more folk are appreciating it. And it's about us getting on and kicking on and getting the benefits as best as we can out of this. And I just wanted to bring this in as well, because this is something we've got to keep our eyes on as well. Capitalise on the financial superiority. We have that at this moment in time, but so far we're on top of all that gate money and everything else. I mean, look at, if you were lucky enough to get one of the spares, they were 160 quid for those remaining spare tickets. That's the kind of money you're getting out of Champions League. Then, of course, you get your TV bonuses, and of course, your win bonus if you can get that. We need to capitalise. There's a real opportunity with these remaining games, starting with tomorrow, for us to get more points to the board, which ultimately is more pounds in the bank. And as we say, when it comes to January, we'll still get a game to play. But if we are into the next phase, we can sign someone in January or players and register them for the next games. And that's something that we've really, really got to take the advantage of.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think with the financial side of things, though, it's a tough situation Celtic are in. Obviously, they've got over £70 million in the bank, but I think the board and the people, the higher-ups of the club, and I think they're right to do this, is not get too far ahead with the mad spending, because at the end of this season, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be Champions League. There's going to be qualifiers again. I think it's 2 rounds of qualifiers you're going to have to go through, even if you win the league, which I think it looks like a formality now.
Yeah,
given the situation. But even if you win that, you're going to have to go through 2 rounds of qualifiers. So I think the board are right to perhaps rein it in a bit with the finances, especially given that Champions League qualification gets you so much money. But at the same time, if you don't qualify, even though you could get a run in the Europa League, you're on the risk of losing that money. So I think they're right to keep it in the bank. We've seen what happened across the city 12 years ago, and what's perhaps even happening now, where they were irresponsible with their money. So Celtic will obviously learn from that and be wise. But at the same time, like you say there, Brendan Rodgers, this is something I've said before previously, is that when he goes to the board in the summer, he says, listen, I think we've got a real opportunity here to kick on. If you back me, like they did, 11 million on Engels, 9 million on Adam Ida, 6 million Austin Trusty, they've backed him, and he's shown the fruits of his labour, and he's got Celtic in a really positive position. Now he goes to a situation in January where, right, I think there's a couple of areas of the squad that need strengthened. I would say the wingers, perhaps. We don't know what the situation is with Greg Taylor, maybe left backs, one you look at. There's a couple of positions that you could look at and strengthen. And Rodgers goes to them and say, right, you've backed me before with big money signings, quality signings, and it's got us this far in Europe. If you back me again this month in January with more quality and more money signings, then perhaps I can get us further in Europe and take us to the promised land of perhaps even a last 16 or a quarter final. So he's got every case to go to the board and say, listen, even if you give me £15 million to spend in January, £10 million to spend, maybe even on 2 players, and if you keep the squad there now and you don't sell anyone key, listen, you could get rid of people like Palma on loan or even permanent. I would like that to happen. But if you keep your key players like Nicholas Kuhn, if you keep your guys intact like Rio Hatates of this world, your Kyogos, Dyson Maedas, Cameron Carter-Vickers, then you go into that Champions League after Christmas, hopefully in the knockout rounds, thinking, depending on the luck of the draw, you could have a real crack at it, depending on who you get.
Definitely.
You never know. But at the same time, don't like getting too far ahead of myself. So you just look to tomorrow night's game, and I think that's what the manager stressed. Even though there is an opportunity there to perhaps even go and get top 8, you just need to keep your focus in the next game, and that is Bruges tomorrow night. And that's the focus for the team.
And see, just to come back and touch on what you said there about backing the manager financially now, I just want to put a wee bit of devil's advocate here now. Firstly, I want to get straight out so there's no misconceptions here. I think that the money that Celtic have spent on Ida and on Engels is totally achievable. There's no reason. That's the kind of money that we should be spending every other season on one, if not two players. The finances are there. Of course, there always comes that level that we as fans will look at the money coming in and we're generating piles and piles and piles of cash. But as you say, the guaranteed money, that's off the back of, back-to-back Champions League. That might not be the case. We'll have to work for that next season. Hopefully, if we keep the squad together, the key players together, and add a wee bit of quality, no reason why that we can't make it through those qualifiers. But the one thing I want to say is the fees. Now, there isn't an issue with them. We should be spending that. However, I've got a wee theory on this, and I don't know what you think. When people are criticising players, Ida or Engels, and saying they need to show more this and that, the question will always be is how quickly do they need to show something? Now, I have faith in both players. I think both are very good players. I think that there's a real talent in there. With Ida, for example, we saw what he could do last season. I think he needs to be a bit more game time. Engels, as I say, is coming to a different environment, different style of play, needs to be bedded in. And I think we'll see the best out of him next season. However, my thing that I would say is whereas Celtic can afford it, and we should be doing it more often, as you've seen over the past couple of seasons and years, we've maybe bought guys at 4 million, 5 million. Yeah, that is chump change again as well. But if they're not successful, we've lost the bulk of that money. And knowing this board, they'll always look at it as a business and the bottom line. Do you have any concerns that if these guys don't hit the ground running to the level that perhaps they expect them to, as guys sitting on a board that don't really know anything about football other than running it, would you think that if they don't see the fruits of that quicker, that it might make them more apprehensive to do it more regularly?
I think there's a case for that actually when you think about it, but at the same time, I think the way football's going these days, like you alluded to, £11 million on a player is not even that much these days, although it's Celtic's kind of record. In the modern market, it's pocket change. But I think that maybe the higher-ups at the club think because Celtic have never spent that amount of money before, it's a massive fee, it's a huge outlier. And yes, I'll agree that it is because it's a record fee. But at the same time, it's not abnormal for teams like Celtic of Celtic stature to be paying that money. And that's the thing. So I don't think there will be a sense of, oh, no, these guys haven't worked out, we're therefore not going to spend this money in future. But I think Engels need a will workout. He does already proven that he can score 77 minutes every goal this season. Engels performing at Champions League, 80 minutes per goal contribution in the Champions League, just needs to find that level of consistency. And they're both young players. And I'm sure that within 2 to 3 years, once those guys start really performing and having standout seasons, then you'll have teams from England, elsewhere in Europe, queuing up to sign them. And then the board will be rewarded for spending money. And as well, you look at Matt O'Reilly, for example, Celtic sell him for £30 million.
You took the words out of my mouth there with him. Yep.
You can therefore, because you sign Matt O'Reilly for 1.5, you sell him for 30. Now, because you sign Arne Engels for 11, you can demand even more for that in the future because you've spent much more on him than Matt O'Reilly, who you got 30 for, who you bought for 1.5. Sign Engels for 11, you can even demand more than 30. Same case with Adam Ida, you've bought him for 9, you can therefore demand more when he performs, which is good.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. As I say, I fully agree, and as I say, I'll continue to beat this drum. Celtic should be spending that more regularly, and as it's coming in, there are some people who have got lofty and unrealistic expectations of what's been happening. It's maybe inflated the expectation levels. Now, I know it's easy to say this as a comparison because it was really next to nothing that we paid for O'Reilly, but if you remember when he first started, question marks over him. Look what he turned into with a full proper, bit of time under the manager, and then obviously with Brendan Rodgers really converted him. And I'm sure we'll get that same kick-on effect for Arne Engels. He just needs to settle, but I also think he needs to find an identity. He's very much just in himself, a wee bit quiet. And I think once he's fully bedded in and knows his role on that side, he'll start to shine. Similar with Ida, we know what he's got there. But as I say, my words of caution I was there, it's maybe me, I wouldn't say conditioned, it's just I know what this board are like, and if they can find a reason why they won't do it again, they will find it. But I've no doubt in my mind that these guys will kick on and they'll make the best of it because we're in a great position. So in terms of other things before we finish up, because it's been coming up and I want your thoughts on it, I'll get some of them in here. We're talking about making money. We're talking about making money for selling players, for developing players, for winning games in the Champions League and so on and so forth. Now, there's a big thing that's really split fans, and I personally absolutely detest it. I think it is complete and utterly embarrassing, is this. Who wants to buy a square on the internet that's apparently part of Celtic Park? It's only going to cost you the best bit of 30 quid. You'll get a nice bit of paper that says you own, here's the Northerns, here's the whatever, your virtual piece of Celtic Park. What a lot of absolute tripe. For me, it's a total Ponzi scheme. It's embarrassing, and I can't believe that Celtic have allowed this Sportly to be part of Celtic. They do say that they're going to give a chunk off to the Celtic Foundation. I believe it works out. It's about £1. Absolutely pointless. Talk to me, mate. We going mental here?
Utter woke nonsense, I think, would be the phrase to use. If I'm honest, I don't think it's great. Listen, fans are allowed to have their opinions. People say it's good, they're allowed to have their opinions, whatever. I personally, to be honest, I couldn't really care less. But at the same time, a virtual piece of the pitch. I get the whole craze nowadays with NFTs and so rare and things like that, and virtual cars that you pay money for, but at the same time, a virtual piece of grass. What has the world come to?
No. I mean, in some cases, you could say it's clever marketing. You know what I mean? But let's face it, who's buying this? See, for me, I think this is aimed at international supporters that are just wanting to buy in to feel part of something. However, I do feel that for me personally, there's a bit of deception around this. Now, out of morbid curiosity, I went and had a look at it, and basically you have the pitch, it's sectioned off, and you get a square. Say you pick the centre circle, you go on it there, and you think, oh, there's only going to be there's about, God knows how many, there's about 1,000 wee tiny squares in that one pitch. So I'd love somebody to have the know-how to go through it and count the amount of squares that there are and work that out. How much are Celtic getting for this? Because it says it's in conjunction, but they've essentially been given a licensing fee to do this. But it's this website, this company, that as far as I can see are the only ones that are really, truly benefiting off of this.
Do you know what it's a bit like? You know how when I think you can do this, you can buy a star. Am I correct in saying that? But when you look at it up in the sky and you're like, oh, I own that star, blah, blah, blah. It's like that. It's like woke nonsense. That's what it is. Like why would you... Well, to be fair, I get why some people would do it, right? 30 quid for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. But for others who are rolling in it, it's not that much money. Mm-hmm. So you buy that and you look at it, when you're sitting in the match day, you're sitting in the north stand, then you get your binoculars out. Oh, that's my bit of the pitch. That's my wee square there. Square that's about that size or something. But to be honest, for me, I couldn't really care less about it. If you're to force me for opinion like you have,
it's just one of those things that, people will talk about the amount of kits that we bring out. People talk about the amount of leisure wear and all that kind of garbage, and you can buy a brick. At least that's something tangible. You can see it with your name on it. It's there. It's literally part of the bricks and mortar of the building. Same way out on the walkway. Things like this for me, I just think it's cheap. And as some people are saying, they always slide it under the radar. It's just all the build up. Oh, Club Brugge playing Champions League. Blah, blah, blah. By the way, buy a fake bit of grass. So I can understand how it leaves a wee bit of a bad taste in people's mouths. But, hey ho, see, at the end of the day, nobody's got the gun held to their head. You don't need to do it. I actually went in and had a look, and there's been a couple of fools who have already done it. So, I hope that they like their a bit of paper with a foil stamp on it that says they own a kid-on bit of Celtic Park. I remember whenever there was the original, Celtic Park, you could get bits of it before the sort of conversion. They're not getting that anyway. I tell you what, though, here's one thing I will say about the virtual grass sponsorship, is they better start putting some money onto the pitch, because it starts to get a wee bit worn around this time of year. And can you imagine you paid 30 bricks for a wee tiny square at that garbage bit down at the Green Brigade that's bald all the time? I'd be like, invest my money, get that fixed.
That's very true. That is very true. The pitching, was it last winter, Bucky Thistle game, was an absolute state. So hopefully they upkeep that well this winter. Obviously we had the kind of cold snap recently, so hopefully it's fine and folk aren't getting that frozen grass that's hard to stand on. Folk are getting the real grass. Grass. But aye, it's just one of these other 2024 nonsense things, isn't it?
That's it. Oh, the cold snap's coming and it'll be absolutely freezing. So if you're at the game tomorrow night, make sure you wrap up. Hopefully the cold snap manages to catch Club Brugge and kills off their chances of Champions League and helps us kick on to a comfortable victory. 10 points in the bag at the end of the night. I will be all there for that, Josh, and I'm sure you will. Listen, mate, we're just about to go an hour, so I just don't want to keep you too long. You're a busy guy. We'll see you back in the channel soon enough, but thanks to every single one of you for taking the time to watch us again. As I say, if you haven't done already, make sure, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Numerous ways you can see the link below to connect with us, and of course go and check out that Club Brugge opposition and focus video that we uploaded. If you want to know a wee bit more about who we're playing, some of these players a wee bit more in detail that we've been talking about, what they do and what we're up against. So until the next time, Josh, thank you very much, mate. You enjoy the rest of your day, and more importantly, enjoy the game tomorrow.
Certainly. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it, and I'm sure we all are. We will be back to cover the result, no matter what it is, win, lose or draw. Spoiler alert, I'm going for win. I'm going for 2-0. I said that before. I think about a really tough competitive game. Josh, before you go, I know you don't like it. Do you want to try and you get any thoughts on it?
I think it's going to be very
Give us some
close.
pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, very close game. I think Celtic, just with the home advantage, I think they'll edge it. I'll go with a 2-1 Celtic win.
Love it. Absolutely. I'm all here for that. Well, anyway, until the next time, take care of yourselves. We'll see you at some point again after the Bruges game. Till that time comes, take care of yourself and hail, hail.